Our next guests provide different perspectives surrounding the dangers of driving under the influence. Carla Bierman is a Florida Victim Services Specialist for MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Trooper Deborah Hawkins is an officer with the Florida Highway Patrol. Trooper Hawkins, Carla, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
MADD was founded in 1980, a mother whose daughter was killed by a drunk driver. Why do you think it has expanded? There's chapters now in all 50 states.
I really do believe that it's because how many people stepped up to create their local chapters. Ours started a year later in 1981 by a local mother whose daughter was killed returning home from a date. Her name was Mary Wiley. And I think there's just kind of the same experience around the country. This is 100% preventable. We're not looking for the cure. There's a reason why this is happening, and I think a lot of people just wanted to make a difference.
It's the largest nonprofit in the country. I was astounded to find that out. Now, I understand that it's been expanded to include driving under the influence of drugs. Has that been a recent change in things?
2015.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So we added help fight drug driving to our mission statement. We had already been working with victims of drug driving crashes, and so it seemed like the logical step to incorporate that into our mission statement.
Now, in terms of demographics, and both of you, I don't know whether you have an answer for this, but do you see any patterns for age, gender, repeat offenders? Is there an influence in that?
Some of the stats that I looked up before are men are 3 times more likely to be arrested for drunk driving, and about 1/3 of those arrested are repeat offenders. The highest level of drunk driving is usually seen in the age 26 to 29.
Okay, tell me again, how many repeat offenders? 1/3?
1/3.
That is an amazing number. Is that what you see as well, Trooper?
We do come across a lot of repeat offenders, even that we've stopped ourselves. Sometimes we may have actually stopped an individual, or we can look it up and see that that individual has been stopped by another officer from another agency.
Oh, so you have collaborative efforts then when you stop someone?
You can look it up on a system called DAVID, Driver and Vehicle Information Database, and on there, any arrest that's been done in the state of Florida will show up, and it will show what county it is. And then you can search that clerk's website and see what agency arrested the individual, and maybe you see the actual affidavit.
Okay. Carla, you are a victims services specialist. What does that mean, and what are your responsibilities?
So I work with injured and bereaved victims of drug and drunk driving crashes, and this can be from the day after the crash till 15, 20 years later. All of our services are at no cost to the victims, and they kind of fall into 3 main areas. So the emotional support, we have a 24/7 helpline that victims can call, whether that's Christmas morning, and talk to a trained victim advocate. I put on support groups and a candlelight vigil every year. I do criminal justice assistance, so helping people walk through the investigation process, the criminal process, accompany them to court, help them write their victim impact statements, things like that. And then there's the aspect that's kind of the social work aspect. So helping them apply for crime victim compensation and find social resources within their community, within their county, if that's financial assistance, counseling referrals, civil attorney referrals, things like that.
Now, are these people who come to you, to the MADD organization, or are they referrals? Do you confer? How do these people know where to go?
So it's kind of a mix. We often get referrals from law enforcement, from friends, people who are just Googling for help and come across us. I also read the newspaper and get crash reports from law enforcement agencies where I will do an outreach to victims just so that they know that the services that are provided, and then they can contact me if they are interested in assistance.
So how much do you work together with officers like Trooper Hawkins? Is that a really frequent occurrence?
Yeah, if there's a case, and I will be in contact with the investigator to see where the process is so that I can be in contact with the victims, letting them know what is going on with the case.
And Trooper Hawkins, do you refer, or do you wait till you're contacted? How does that work?
A lot of us, if we go to the scene in which a fatality is involved, whether it's impaired driving or not, if we can think about it, we will let them know to contact MADD, especially if impairment is involved. Yeah. Let them know to contact MADD. They will help them through many different steps of the way. And they can contact them when they want, when they feel that they can. There's no pressure to do that or anything to that effect. And we let them know that that's an outreach for them that they can get help with.
Right. Now, it's my understanding that a number of states have adopted legislation that if someone is convicted of a DUI, there's a device that prevents that person from starting their car if their blood alcohol limit is over a certain level. how does that work, and is that successful?
Yes, so the ignition interlock device, it is installed on the car, so the person does have to provide a breath sample, and that has to not be detection of alcohol for that car to start. So it is something that is put on the vehicle.
Are you familiar with that? I know we don't have it in Florida, but
We do have ignition interlocks here in the state of Florida, and it is required right now if you're convicted of a DUI with a .15 or higher.
I had no idea.
Yeah, we do have it, and each state has its own limits of what it can be once you start the car. They realize some people are going to go out and drink a little bit, even though they shouldn't when they're driving a car, but they will. So again, like she said, they have to pay to have it installed, and they also have to pay for the monthly maintenance fee, in which would take it in and get the information downloaded.
But that has been successful then,
Right.
in helping.
It does help.
In states that have implemented similar laws, their DUI fatalities have dropped by as much as 50%.
Right. I saw that the UCF, the university, had actually hosted a fundraiser for MAD recently, and one of our UCF police officers was a co-chair of that event. Is that a common collaboration with universities around the country?
That was our Walk Like MAD event, and those do go on around the country. We really do value our partnerships with law enforcement locally, and so we have a very good relationship with UCF, and they did work with our committee to host that event for us. So I know that there are other collaborations around the country. You know, it just kind of depends on those unique situations and relationships.
Some work a little more smoothly than
Yeah.
others, yes. How about volunteers, Carla? Is there a need or a role for them in what you do?
We do, yeah. I mean, we put on different events throughout the year. So if someone's interested in helping out with our walk, helping out with our law enforcement recognition event, things like that, we are looking for volunteers. We serve 6 counties, and we only have 3 full-time staff. So we really do rely on volunteers to do what we do. We are very much a grassroots organization still to this day.
Any special skill sets that you particularly need for volunteers? Or anybody you can employ would
It
probably
really
be a
depends.
good
I
thing.
mean, there are some people who are very vocal and they like to fundraise, and that's always needed. And then there are some people who have that, you know, they can go into a room and really connect with people. And to have somebody like that when you're working with victims is, you know, incredible. So
that would mean a lot.
there's a lot of different skill sets that we need.
Yes. Trooper Hawkins, let me ask you, are you seeing increased fatalities in Florida from drunken driving? Have we leveled off? Is it?
We haven't leveled off. The last statistic was put up by National Highway Traffic Safety Administration was for 2015. It showed that there was a rise in the state of Florida, but there were a rise in other states as well. The 2016 stats are not out yet, but it wasn't a large increase, but still an increase, which is way too much.
And how do we compare with other states?
Overall, I think we're kind of unfortunately right there. If you look at certain statistics when they factor into monetary, insurance, work loss and stuff, we actually don't rank that high. But overall, depending on if you're just looking at just traffic fatalities, we are right up there with most of them.
I was thinking, because we live in Central Florida, which is a vacation destination, people might be a little more relaxed, have a little more alcohol than they usually do when they're just at home. Does that make us more at risk here?
That, in combination with the factor that a lot of them are tourists, maybe from out of country as well, so they're unfamiliar with the roads, with the signs, and that factor comes in. So you should maybe drive from a country where you drive on the left-hand side and not the right-hand side.
And add alcohol to that?
Add alcohol, you lose your train of thought, and then also you're driving on what you think is your correct side, which would be the wrong way here.
Right.
So it does play a factor into it.
Right. Any areas geographically in the state that are more prone? I mean, is Central Florida one of the higher areas for?
I believe we are, just for the fact that we do have a higher concentration of the population here, and it is just by virtue of elimination, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was astounded. I read this statistic, and let me get this straight: 50 to 75% of convicted drunk drivers continue to drive on suspended licenses. How do you combat this? They're already being punished. What do we do?
It's just for us stopping the individual from, if they see a traffic violation, the officer stopping the individual and either writing what's called a notice to appear, where they have to go in court to explain why they were doing that, or actually physically arresting the individual and taking them to jail. Most likely, if they're on a suspended license and they've been convicted of the DUI, there is going to be probation causes they got to follow through with, and if they violate their probation, then we can arrest them on that as well.
Do you see that a lot? Do you run across that?
We
suspended
run
license?
across a lot of suspended driver's license and just no driver's license in general. Some people have maybe just been taken away or just never gotten one, and they will continue to drive without one.
Right. Trooper Hawkins, we have multiple holiday weekends in the summer. Any advice for all of us how to stay safe?
The best thing to do is if you're going to go out and you want to have fun, which no one's against not having fun, we're not mad, and Florida Highway Patrol and other law enforcement agencies not against drinking. You're just against drinking and getting behind the wheel and driving. So if you're going to do that and you designate a driver, the designated driver needs to abide by that and be the one that does not partake in type of alcohol. Allow plenty of time to get to and from where you're going, because you realize that there are going to be traffic jams, and just be patient is the biggest thing. Is just be patient, because the roads are going to be crowded. There are going to be crashes that do occur for whatever reason, and then there are going to be impaired drivers on the road. So if you're out there and you just take your time and let things happen, then you should hopefully get home safe.
Thank you both so very much.